All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning for those that that are on the West Coast. Thank you for joining us for the March edition or the second edition of Success Spotlight. If you joined us last month with Rose Crandall, great. If you haven't, if you go on YouTube and look for Success Spotlight Rose Crandall, I'm sure you'll see it there. Or if you just reach out to us, we'll be sure to send it to you. But whether you're attending with us live here or whether you're watching the recording, appreciate you taking the next 30 to 45 minutes out of your day to listen and really just focus on implementing new things into your hiring process that could really make a difference in helping you find good qualified talent. So super excited that today we're joined by Jason Kilgo. So Jason started his insurance career with Geico, and in the 4 years that he was there became the #1 seller throughout the nation, and then moved on to becoming an Allstate agency owner for 5 years. Since making the transition to the independent space in 2016, Jason now has 4 current staff members, has a book size of 4.5 million. But outside of insurance, Jason has 2 kids, a son that is 7 and a daughter that is 11, right, Jason?
Sure.
Yep, perfect. And then outside of insurance, when Jason wraps up his insurance career, he plans on opening either a brewery or a winery. So I'm sure you'll explain a little bit more about that too as well, Jason. But thank you for joining us, Jason. I appreciate you taking some time to talk about your process and what's led you to be so successful.
Love it. Thank you.
Of course. Perfect. So generally speaking for this, Jason, I like to start really from the top. So I know in the conversations that we've had, you've mentioned that you're looking to actively bring on staff now. And really, of course, the first component of that is really putting together a plan, putting together a hiring process, and determining what you want it to look like. So, of course, really the first, I guess, step that you take is creating a job ad. But in terms of your process, you have a tons of insurance experience with, Geico, Allstate, and now in the independent space. So over the experience that you have, talk about, I suppose, the process as a whole that you put together.
Yeah, I think you need to, figure out, exactly the position that you're hiring for. Right now, we're looking to pretty much hire at every position, but I think it starts with, IdealTraits. What we decided to do was put the ads through Indeed and ZipRecruiter. It's been a phenomenal response. I've been able, we probably average 5 resumes a day. Going through that, get them to fill out the personality assessment. What's great is also with Indeed, we go in and we search resumes. I'm looking for people with, to me, it used to be one of those things where if they didn't have experience, it was great because then I could train them. I could go my own way and get them into my processes. But right now, it's if they have experience, that's even better because I need someone that can plug and play, especially on inbound phone calls. So going through that process, and filling out the job descriptions, we targeted certain areas. We're a remote agency right now. It's kind of a funny story. We kind of got politely kicked out of our last space and went completely remote. And so we've been holding it down. And then COVID, everybody said I was crazy. And then COVID hit, and everybody was like, "You're a genius." So that just kind of worked out. But now we are getting the headquarters. We're getting office space. So I need people in the office, getting back to that in-office work model. We're probably going to do some hybrid things. I think that is the new world that we're dealing with, that people are going to be hybrid. But one of the things I wanted to mention on the description, I think, we, a couple of mentor agents, we've discussed this in detail. People hiring is one of the number one things you have to do as an agency owner is run an agency. You have to have good people. And I think it looks great when you can have your own employees put a testimonial together about why they love it there, why they have the passion to be there, what the culture is. When it comes from their mouth instead of yours, it's obviously more believable. People buy into it more. And so we put that into the job description to try to, entice people to understand the culture that they're going to be walking into.
Yeah, and that's pretty good. A lot of good stuff there. And I'm excited to a little bit later to talk about, when you took that leap to remote, what did you do? Like, to help track, employee production and things of that nature, to maybe help some people, take that leap themselves too as well, because as you mentioned, it is becoming more of the norm. So you mentioned something really good about the personalization of the job description, putting in your employees' perspective and helping, I suppose, paint the picture of what they're walking into. How, like when you're putting together responsibilities and requirements, I think, you'll see those job ads that are out there that have like 50 responsibilities and 50 requirements and maybe not as many benefits. So when you're putting together that portion of the job ad, and I suppose compensation would tie into this too as well, because we all know how important that is. I suppose, what are you focusing on with the responsibilities and requirements to make it concise, or do you sort of feel it's important to draw it out a little bit?
No, I think I make it pretty short and sweet. We tell everyone what we want: good people.
Yeah.
We want people that are professional,
Sure.
that are, have that caring personality, that empathetic personality, that are not scared of the phones. Right? It's a phone job. 100% of what we do is over the phones. I'll get more into that a little bit later. But we really just put something in there to attract what the position's going to look like on a daily basis, what kind of people we're looking for that pertain to the position. We do target, and I think IdealTraits does a really good job with this, the target area. So we write all throughout Virginia. I've gotten out. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. We've got a producer that's in Northern Virginia. We've had producers in Virginia Beach. So those are each 2-3 hours away from me, depending on traffic. So IdealTraits does a really good job of targeting that. We also, right now we have remote. At one point, I had a remote person in Kentucky. So, they do a good job of, helping us target things and put that information in there so we can draw the best candidates. But I keep it short and simple. It's nothing crazy. We're just trying to get resumes in the door so we can talk to them.
Sure. Yeah. And it seems like, obviously you mentioned receiving about 5 resumes a day, which is great. Right. And of course, if you do some quick math, span that across a month, you're receiving, a generous amount or a good amount to be able to, I'm sure, suffice some interviews, which we'll get into here in a moment. Now,
one thing we do before you go into the next question.
Yeah.
We do change the title position. So it won't say insurance sales person. It won't say insurance sales agent, insurance sales rep, or customer service rep. We change that title and make it look a little bit more appealing. So one of the ones that I get the most responses on is achiever sales leader.
Okay.
And people love that. I don't think they really know what it is. It just sounds cool.
Sure.
And I think that really helps. They see something different, and that differentiates us. And that's what I think every insurance company wants to do. They want to be different than the competition down the street. I mean, if you go down the block, there's probably 5 insurance companies, right? So what makes you special? What makes you different? And that's something cool we do. So our service people, we don't call them CSRs. We call them client care advocates. So that's another one that gets a lot. Like, people hear that care word, client care advocate. That sounds cool. I like to help people. I want to help people get paid for it. Boom, they apply. So I think that is probably what you were trying to draw out of me, that we do change that title position.
Yeah. And that's good. And I think the consensus across, in terms of the job ad, what we've talked about so far, is that you get creative with it, right? And you're not afraid to tie in that personal side of it. So you don't take just a cookie cutter job description or cookie cutter job ad title and throw that out there and expect to, receive 5 resumes a day, right? So for those, of course, listening, I think it's important not to get too carried away with the creativity, right? You don't want to get too out there, but it seems as if Jason's provided 2 great examples of a way that you can change something like customer service representative, still tap into that search engine optimization, as well as tap into client care advocate, something that may sound a little bit more appealing, right? And I'm sure that's fair to say, no?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Looks like we have some questions that are already coming in, but those are revolving around once you get the resume, or this one is once you get the resume. So before we get to that, what I wanted to ask real quick too is, of course, with your experience through IdealTraits, you can post the job ads organically, and then you can also sponsor them, right? Pay the additional budget to either Indeed or ZipRecruiter. Do you find yourself doing the sponsorship often? Do you find yourself just going with the organic postings? What's your approach there?
It's on automatic. So I sponsor every month. I whether we're hiring or not. If a person walks in my door and unbelievable talent, someone we've got to have, I'll figure a way to make it work. So yeah, I'm constantly in the hiring mode. It is constantly turned on and we're constantly sponsoring it.
Perfect. All right. So we've created the job ad. We've done the sponsorship. Resumes start coming in. This is going to tie into the first question that we received here, which is, what is your process once you start getting the resumes? What's it looking like? What's your engagement looking like? I know in our discussions, it's a thorough process, which I think is great. And I'm excited for the folks to listen. But what goes into it? How did you go about creating it?
Yeah, so resume comes in. What we are looking for is them to fill out the complete assessment on IdealTraits, answer all the questions, do the math. One of the things that we were talking about earlier is that on the math, if they're not scoring a 9 out of 15, then it's pretty much it's going to be rough. They'd have to really shine in some other areas. We want to see them hit 9 or above on the math. We want people that are going to take the time to figure out problems, right? The last thing I want is to hire someone and I'm constantly getting bothered with questions on what their problem solution should be. I want them to be independent thinkers. So we do look at that. Love the short answer part for IdealTraits. Can't hype on that enough. Tells me a little bit about them and what they're thinking. I also really pay attention to the written communication they've got there. Are they spelling things correctly? How are they wording things? I've seen some crazy things. People have used yo and bro and all kinds of things on there. And I'm like, really? Like this is a job interview. It's got to be different than that. So it's got to be a little bit more professional. So I've seen some crazy things, but it's good to see that up front to know if they're going to make it to the next level or not. So we also rank. I don't think people are using this feature enough with IdealTraits. We rank everyone 1 to 5 stars. So we rank our applicants when they come in. We look at the information they filled out. We look at the resume, and we put a ranking on them. It helps us identify who we really want to focus on, but it also helps us if we're not quite ready for that person, we know what kind of star we gave them. And if we want to call them later on, when we are hiring, if they would fit, what we want then. So
yeah,
easy way to find people, easy way to rank and score to what candidates are better than others. So we really love the scoring feature. From there, when we get that, we go through all that, and if it looks good, we are sending out an email, and I can send this out to everyone. It's pretty simple. Just says subject. It's an email interview. Hi, applicant. First, I want to thank you for your interest in the blank position at Kilgo Insurance, and we're taking the time to submit your resume. We received applications from many qualified individuals, and we have a very extensive hiring process. The fact that you're receiving this email means that you have cleared the first hurdle in that process. Yay. The next step is a quick email interview, and it's happening right now. Please respond to this email with answers to the following questions. What was your favorite job and why? What accomplishments are you most proud of? Do you prefer salary plus a smaller commission or a larger commission with a smaller salary? What is your expectation for the range of income in year 1, year 2, year 3? And how do you feel you can make a difference at Kilgo Insurance? I look forward to hearing from you. So we send that out. I do pay attention to how quick I get the response.
Okay.
Are they really interested in working for me, or is this going to be a job for them? I want career people. I don't want job people. So we want the best people that are the most excited to come to work for us. It also tells me a lot about them and what my first interview will look like should it get to that.
Sure.
And the biggest question there is, how do you feel you can make a difference at Kilgo Insurance? And so I want to hear what they think they can do to make us better. I'm not trying to be average. I don't need someone to just come in and answer the phone. I need someone that's going to answer the phone and do something. Get that person who want to give us a 5-star Google review. Get that cross sell. Enhance us some way. So we really do get a lot of information from there. And also, then again, it's about how clearly was their answers. Are things spelled correctly? What words did they use? It kind of gives us all gearing back to that communication. Communication is key right now. So we want that communication there. And then how fast you are, right? People are impatient. So if they get back to us pretty quick, I know they're on it. Not only are they excited, but they're ready to handle things. So that's what we love there. We sometimes, this process is kind of in other steps, but we sometimes will ask them to do a video presentation of impact, the difference they can make at Kilgo Insurance. So how could they can make us better and do it by video? Right now, we haven't really did as much because, kind of through COVID at this point, we do Zoom calls. We don't have a problem doing it, but most of the applicants, most of the candidates I face don't have a problem with the video as much as they were, 2-3 years ago. So you could do that then, but we haven't found it necessary to do the video presentation. I guess, some people love it more than others, but then we go to the first interview. So once they pass that initial work, we're making them work a little bit. We're not just saying, hey, we've got a couple interviews here and then you get hired. We're putting them to work. We want to see how they're going to respond, what they're going to say, and how they can help us.
Absolutely. And as a part of that too, I know Jason mentioned a lot in terms of like the assessment. So he's engaging with the candidates throughout getting them to complete that assessment. I know he mentioned the math portion. For those of you that are wondering, that's the problem solving, which is that second part of the assessment. And then the short answer, of course, is those open-ended questions that allows you to, one, find out a little bit more about the candidate, but then also check grammar and punctuation, see if that sentence structure is what you're looking for to be represented in your agency. So it sounds as if so far the process is thorough, right? You're looking for specific A players, if you will. So it's, fair to say that you're protective of the culture that you have. So what's next? So you mentioned that first interview that takes place. Do you do any sort of role playing with the candidates to gauge, their ability to have conversations and, build relationships or rapport with you in that setting? Or is it more of just like, hey, I'm going to ask you a series of 10 questions and see how you do?
Yeah, so we go right into a face-to-face or Zoom interview. I'm really trying to decide, do I like them? Are they fit culturally? Are they a go-getter? That's probably the most important. And,
Sure.
and could they learn on the job? Are they coachable? So those are the things we're trying to figure out in that first interview. I think one of the questions that agency owners need to ask is, what are your non-negotiables? A lot of people ask what they can do, or, are they coachable, or what can we get from, but I ask them, I say, hey, what is something you will not do? The best response I ever got, she was like, I will never not be, I'll always be compliant. I will never be unethical. And I love that. That was like the best answer ever. But I've had people say, I hate being on the phone. Well, there goes that opportunity, because 100% of what we do is over the phone. So it's really good to find out the non-negotiables up front, because that's not going to change. Those people are saying, I'm not going to do this. It's non-negotiable. It's not going to work out. It doesn't fit for our agency. So ask them, what are the non-negotiables? Another thing I want to just mention, you see me looking over here. I've written everything out. I wrote everything out on what I want. I'm not going through this blind. You got to make sure that you're following this process to make sure you're getting the best candidates. So we've written it out, and we're going through that. We make our first cuts. Will they, based on this information, can they move to the next part of our interview process? And if they do, if I like them at the end of that, what I do, and I'll share it here, I'm taking this from when I was hired at Geico, and I thought it was the best hiring process. Geico does a lot of things wrong, but they do a lot of things right. And one of the things they do right is who they put on their sales team. And this could also be used for service as well. I just think it doesn't matter if you're in service or sales, you're still sales. And so you're still trying to grow that bottom line. And if you're retention, you're trying to sell them on why they need to stay with us, right? So it's all sales to an aspect. What they did when I passed their first interview at Geico, they put me in a small room. It was almost like a closet, and it was an old school 1980s telephone in there. And they gave me a flyer of a car wash. And she said, hey, look over this flyer. Someone's going to call you in a second, and you are going to be the client, the customer, and someone's going to call you about why they should use your car wash. And there was all these different value things on it. So I had to get on that phone, and if I wanted that job in sales, I needed to sell that car wash to get to the next part of their process. So that's what I did. I basically reconstructed, share right here, share screen. All right.
There we go. Yep.
Perfect. And so see there, I just named it Kilgo's Bike Company. Really easy. Put all the different things that a mountain bike could have that would be appealing, put some value stuff in there, and just kind of made it cool looking. Took this stuff. Actually, I think I had a graphic designer put it together. Might have did something off of Fiverr. I mean, something simple. But what I do is I give my candidates this flyer and I say, look, I email this over to them. And then I set a time. And usually it's, 10, 15 minutes after I send it. We're going to, I'm going to call you. We're going to have a Zoom meeting. I prefer Zoom because I want to see their body language. But it can be over the phone, which is perfectly fine because, like I said, 100% of our business over the phone. I send this over to them, and I say, hey, I'm looking for a mountain bike. What do you have at the shop? And I'm looking for how they are going to build rapport. What kind of questions they're asking? Are they talking too much? Are they asking a lot of questions about my problem, helping me with my solution? Are they making it hard for me to object? Are they building that value? I want to hear something other than price. I want to hear that they're personal, that they really care about getting me the best bike. That's what I want to hear. So going through this whole process, and then at the end of it, I want to see if they will close. That's the hardest part. Most people don't close very well. So I want to see some kind of, are we doing this or are we not doing this? It doesn't have to be, hey, I've got this bike and everything looks great. Don't you agree? Yes. Okay, I'll take your check or credit card. It doesn't have to be a hard close, but it needs to have some kind of, okay, now's the time where you buy the bike. And I want them to initiate that conversation. So I don't see many agents doing this. I think it's very extremely rare, and I don't know why, because I need to know where they're at in their sales skills. So I know what to train them on when they come on board. We have a whole training process. We go through an onboarding training process with everybody. We've got ours set up. I'm sure everyone on this call's got theirs set up in their own unique way, but I want to know where they're at. Are they ahead or are they behind? If they're behind and I really love them, I know I've got my work cut out for me, and I want to see if there's another candidate that's better. We want A players, right? We want someone that's going to come in right away and make an impact, make a difference. And so we have to make those decisions on what kind of candidate we want for that. So this is something we do that I think really separates us from the competition down the road.
This is really cool too. Like you can just tell by the effort that you put into creating it, right, or getting it created, that you care about, the candidates being able to go through this process and truly be able to see if they're going to be a good fit for the culture and dynamic that you have at your office, right? Like that's why I imagine, and I'm sure it's self-explanatory, why you're doing something this thorough is because you want to be absolutely sure that the candidate will be a good fit. Because you're getting 5 candidates a day, but then you're faced with the next issue, which is how to identify who the top candidates are, right? And this is a part of the process. So once they let's say they go through it, they give a great pitch, they go through the Kilgo Bike Company, and they, do a good job. Is there another step to the process, or are you hiring them at that point?
Yeah, so we have 12 steps. So they make it through this. They are going to meet with my office manager or my team. I prefer them to meet with the team, give everybody an opportunity to ask the questions. Really, what we're trying to do here is we're not trying to grow them. We're trying to make sure they're a fit. It works for them. It works for us. Everyone gets along. They feel like they are excited for that person to come on board. They're gonna really be a team player. So that's what we're trying to figure out. We have no drama right now, and I'm trying to keep it that way. We've got a really great culture in my office. Everybody genuinely loves what they do. Everybody wants to come to work. They have a passion for what they do. We want more people aligned like that. And so all it takes is one bad apple. All it takes is one person to come in and poison the group, and you're in a totally different cultural environment. So we're very cautious. We're very picky. We want the right person in here. Obviously, salespeople are outgoing, and they've got a lot going on. That's fine. But you still need to be able to fit. We still need to be able to be a team. So we go through that. Each team member usually asks one or two questions. Will they make us better? Are we excited to have them on the team? Can they do the job at a high level? We had so many people that come on board that we thought were a good fit, and they do half the work and then try to shove the other half onto someone else. And that's not a team player. We need to work together, balance each other out, and make things work. And like we say, hey, if you pick up the phone, you accepted that call. You took ownership of that call. We will help you. We want to get it resolved, but you've taken ownership. You need to handle the call. We check references. We want to make sure if they have references on the resume, we just go through them. We want to just see what kind of person they've been at their previous company. One of the questions we ask in some of the interviews is, what did you love most about your job? What did you like least about the job? If your supervisor were to name 3 character traits about you, what would they say? Obviously, it's all going to be good. So this reference part really helps us double check that. We do a second cut after this. Maybe the reference person, said something that we don't quite agree with, or maybe the team members just don't think they're quite a fit. So we go through a second cut. We have a final interview, and that's where we go into more specifics about the role, the responsibilities, the compensation. We get very specific about what they will be doing to help us hit goals. We still don't offer an actual job. We don't actually make the offer right then. We will call, let them know that they've got the job, and then we will send out that email with that offer. And then also we send out something like, hey, this is what winning looks like. You do these things and we will win with you. They do a 90-day probationary period. We review for performance, and then everybody wins. So that's our process, top 12 steps there. I've got, just through the years of doing this, I've picked up so many different, questions. So if everybody on here, if they're having a hard time, what they need to say, what questions they need to ask, I've got a ton here that I've picked out that I think will help people. So if people want that, just, please reach out to Nolan or myself, and I can help you with those questions or the process.
Beautiful. Yeah. And that, again, is a thorough process, but it's by design, right? Because again, if we go back to what I mentioned earlier, and what we agreed on is that you're being protective of the dynamic at the agency and the culture, right? So I would imagine this goes without saying that once they do start, they make it through the process, that same intensity and passion continues on throughout, right? With the training that they're getting when you're going through that 90-day probationary period, right? It's not as if you just, okay, you're hired, go, right? There's training that you go through, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I'm not perfect. I've had some real bad hires, and I don't think anybody's perfect, and I've been duped before. I tell everybody that, I've been told all the right things through this whole process and felt, oh my gosh, they came up as a sales leader in IdealTraits. Their short answer was just unbelievable. Their writing, their tone, the way they're talking, it just, they got such energy. This is going to be awesome. And then they get in and they're not coachable. They're not a team player. They are not doing the daily routines. We do a scorecard. So we do a weekly scorecard. Once you're in, there's KPIs, there's behaviors we want to see you hit. I think there's 8 of them that you need to hit on a weekly basis. Every Monday morning, we're checking, what did you do last week? What are your plans for this week? Are you hitting your numbers on your scorecard? And we've got people that just can't hit the numbers. And we've coached them and we've tried to help them with the challenges they're having. And it's just not a fit. It just doesn't work. So I've made mistakes. I've had bad hires. But what we're trying to do with this process is put people through a little bit of a process to be able to win the job. We don't want this to be a call center where, hey, I just apply and we need a button to seat to answer the phones, and oh, you breathe, and so we're going to hire you. We're not that company. We're going to put it in a little bit of work because we want you to know that this is going to be an awesome opportunity for you. This is going to be an awesome career for you. We're going to provide everything, and we're going to turn you into a superstar. But you have to have that drive component. You have to have that go-getter. And that's pretty much everything we're lining up here is for that. We're trying to discover, are they driven? Are they a go-getter? Can they really handle this job? I mean, it does become a grind sometimes, especially right now. This time period is brutal. It's very rewarding, but it's brutal right now. So we need to make sure that this person understands that and can get through it and still smile and still say, hey, this is the best job ever. That's my highest compliment. When we get those, when I was telling you at the beginning of the call, when we get those testimonials, what I do is I just send out, every once in a while, I'll send out an email survey to my team and say, what do you like here? What do you not like here? And, based on those testimonials, good and bad, that's how we're getting better. And so the good ones, the great ones, I ask them, I say, hey, do you mind if I put this on the job description when we look for our next candidate? They're like, sure. Because they want good people too. Nobody wants to sit next to someone that's not doing their job. So, right?
Yeah, that is true.
So we make it a little tough. We don't want it to be easy. We want them to know that, hey, this is the best job right now out there. This is why you want to be at Kilgo Insurance and not somewhere down the street. So we do make it a little trying, and we try to get really in depth. I already know, one of the things I'm trying to work on, I'm sure you guys can tell, I like to talk. So on the interview process, I have to ask a question and I have to tell myself, shut up. Just shut up and let them answer the question, let them talk, and let me hear what they have to say, because that's what I'm judging everything on. I can't make someone be what they're not.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that's a thing I'm working on right now. And it's tough.
And that's a really good point. You can't make someone be something that they're not. And I think a lot of times when hiring processes are rushed, that can slip into it because you're compromising. You're like, maybe not the perfect fit, but we'll make it work, right? And then it doesn't work. So, Jason, we have about 10 minutes left, and we have some compensation questions that have come in. So the first one is if you put compensation or salary on the ad, which I imagine is just a yes, right?
I was, and now I am not.
It's not.
I'm not putting compensation on the ad. I'm actually against it because I want them to know it doesn't matter the position. I'm a believer in sky's the limit, and what's earned is paid. So we have a base. We have a couple of different plans. I'm actually working with a CFO to kind of go through some things. Shout out to Carrie Wallace. She's awesome. So we're working on some things to really define that the comp plans that we're going to offer at the different positions. But I decided when I was putting it on there, people were only attracted to what was on that comp. I'm getting more resumes not putting it on there because people are like, okay, I want to apply here and see what it's about. Mm-hmm. So they truly are applying because they want to be with us because of the description we have of the ad, and not what's based on the pay.
Okay, perfect. And
no,
then,
I'm curious. I don't know. Do a lot of people? I mean, have you seen it my way or a different way than with the comp?
Yeah, so generally speaking, like with what you're doing, it could work to where you're sponsoring your ad, right? So you're putting that additional budget, you have that recruiting budget that we've discussed, and it's keeping you on the top of the job boards longer. So then candidates are searching and they're able to see your ad and they're able to apply to it. In organic posting, I wouldn't recommend taking that compensation off, because a lot of candidates these days, and the job boards too, they're moving in a direction of salary transparency, right? Where you don't have to put like the exact comp like down to the T, but putting a range and then talking about what top performers can earn can give you insight into and can give you assistance into it. But hey, every process is different, right? So if someone is looking to be like, okay, well, I'm going to no longer offer the compensation, I would stay away from that if you're going to post an organic ad. If you're going to sponsor it like Jason has, and he's doing that every month, as he mentioned, then you may be able to take that compensation off of it. Does that make sense?
Definitely. I just in my thought process was, with inflation and with everything skyrocketing right now, everybody's getting more money than ever, really. So they're asking for more money. So we do ask that when they're in the interview process. Would you mind telling us what your expectations are of commission or of salary, or what you're planning on making here? What do you want to be making in the next 3 to 5 years? So that's one of the questions we ask. So anyways, I think you could do it, like you said, either way, because I am paying for it. Maybe that helps us a little bit.
Yeah. And then the next compensation question was, if you're talking to someone, once they get to the step that you're talking about compensation, and they mention that the compensation, like the base salary, is too low, how do you navigate that conversation? Is it just, hey, okay, this isn't a good fit for you? Or is it more of like, okay, well, what does work? And if they're the right candidate, are you able to work with them on that?
I'm a salesperson by nature. So I'm always negotiating. So if someone can out negotiate me, good for them. I want to pay people to want to be in my agency and perform at a high level. If that person says, hey, if you pay me this. So I got the job at Geico because I walked in there. I said, I need a job. And they said, well, we don't hire people right away. I said, who's your number one person right now? I will beat them if you hire me today, but you got to hire me today. If I had somebody walk into my agency and say that, just because I've been through it and I've proven them wrong, I'm going to pay real close attention to that person in the next couple of questions I'm asking, because I already love them. I want somebody to be a go-getter. I want someone to say, hey, I'm going to take this upon myself and I'm going to prove you wrong and I'm going to be successful. That's the kind of people we want in our agency. And it doesn't matter what position you're in. I mean, service, sales, commercial, life, it doesn't matter. Somebody like that, those are the people you want on your team. So if I am undercutting someone, we do talk about it. We do negotiate. It's where someone's making too much that I'm willing to pay, but I think they're great. That's where it's tough. That's where I have the hardest time, because I really want them, but I can't afford them. So I'm trying to figure out creative ways to see if we can get them into where, hey, you might have to take a step back right now, but in 3 years, you're going to take like 2 giant steps forward. So I've got to get them to see the future and what can offer. I mean, some of my comp plans, we were off of residual income. So, they're getting that. They've got to be able to see the future, because it's not going to be right now. They got to build it.
Yeah, it takes some time to get up and running. That's a good point. Yeah. And then there's a couple other people that are asking for the email copy that you provided, that first email that you send out. And then a couple other folks asking for the scorecard or checklist that you have, that you have too. And I'm sure the Kilgo Bike Company flyer, if you're willing to share, that would be great. So, Jason, at the end, we can talk about sharing your contact information, or if you want to send that stuff over, we can send it out in the email that we'll send tomorrow. So we have just a couple more minutes here. So I suppose we'll go with one last question that, of course, we'll ask at the end of each success spotlight. So a majority of the folks that are on here with us today are, of course, current IdealTraits users. And a majority of the reason why they've, of course, come today is because they're looking for tips and tricks that you have that they can implement into their process. So we've talked about a lot of great things that I'll recap here in just a moment. But I suppose the one thing that you feel is most important for IdealTraits users or people who are looking to start their process, what's the most important thing that you go through once you start your process? It sounds like it's a monthly thing, but the most important thing that you start with and that you carry on throughout your process and don't forget.
Wow, that's a loaded question. I feel like I could talk another hour on that.
Yeah.
For me, for a long time, I think I was just winging it. I was just going to the first interview, and from that interview, trying to decide, is this person going to be my next hire, or am I passing? And I just think it's more involved than that. Like I said, we've got a written process. I mean, this process went from, 8 steps to 10 steps to 12 steps. I've added steps through COVID and then taken them off. We're constantly trying to adapt to what's going to get us the best candidates. But ultimately, I think that's what it is. You are trying to find, out of the sea of people out there, who is the best fit for your agency. Because if you have 2 go-getters, 2 awesome candidates, one of them still may not be a good fit for your agency just because of the way you run it, or your processes, or your people, or your culture. So there's so many different things involved, and there's so many variables that you really have to wade through them and ask poignant questions on who is going to be the best fit. I think IdealTraits helps us, and is a priority in our process starting off, to get some kind of assessment together so I can kind of tell what kind of personality you have. Someone that comes up as knowledgeable compared to a salesperson, obviously 2 different thinkers. They could both sell. They're both good people. They both could be go-getters, but it tells me a little bit about their personality. The short answer helps. The math helps. The way we can grade them and judge them, score them, and then just going through our process to kind of define who we really want out of this. So I would say you need to write down what your hiring process is going to be, what it's going to look like, memorize it, and follow it. I think that's the biggest thing I would say. You've got to follow it. Like, there's so many times I'm like, oh, I love this person, I want to hire him right away. And I've cheated my own process, and guess what? Failed.
Yeah.
Right. So I've learned to I've got a girl I just interviewed this morning. Love her. I know she's going to be fantastic. She's going to be great. I'm following my process. So she just went to the first interview. Guess what? She's got to go to the bike company. She's got to sell me a bike. She's got to go meet my team. We've got to go through the process. And if they're not willing to do that, I know a lot of people in here, oh my gosh, I could have messed out on the best candidate ever. It's okay. They were not a fit. If they can't get through the process, they're not a fit. And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. So much good stuff, Jason. I mean, for those of you that listen, I know we're running a little bit past time, but it has been so good that we just had to keep it going. So from the beginning stages of, starting your process throughout, if you go back and listen to the recording again, you hear that passion and that enthusiasm and that thoroughness that Jason has with this process, is because he cares about the people that he brings into his agency. And again, as I've said a couple of times, is protective of the dynamic and culture that he has. So a couple of things that we talked about here is putting together a recruiting budget, right? You have to be prepared to invest into your recruiting to find the right people. You can't wing it, as Jason just said, right? You have to be prepared. And then also too, as well, you have to have that planned out. You can't wing it either. So Jason, again, the last 46 minutes have been great. I appreciate you for sharing all your insights and part of your process. And it sounds like some people are really attracted to finding out more. So can't thank you enough for coming on. And we will have our 3rd edition of the Success Spotlight in April with Farmers Insurance agent Drew Sill. So he will be our 3rd guest in April. Drew is an farmers agent in Georgia, as I mentioned. But Jason, thank you again for joining us. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we sign off here?
No, I can't thank you enough. Appreciate the honor it is to talk on here and share. Love sharing. Want every agency to get better. I want you guys to have amazing candidates. And thank you, IdealTraits. Kevin, Jeff, you guys are just awesome. Keep coming up with great stuff. Keep that tech stack coming. And appreciate you.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you again, Jason. Everybody have a great rest of your day. And you will receive the recording tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. For all of you that maybe had to jump around a little bit, recording will come tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you in April for Success Spotlight number 3. Take care.